Okay, we're going to get started, everyone. Welcome to our Shoplogix webinar. We will be covering our analytics suite today. And if Tarannum, you want to start sharing, we can get going.
That's good. All right.
Okay, so as mentioned, we will be covering the Shoplogix Analytics Suite today. It's a new offering of some advanced capabilities for our analytics portal. And what we'll start with is first an introduction, and then we'll go into our agenda as well. So I'll go first. Manny Bonilla, I'm the VP of Product Strategy here at Shoplogix. I've been here since the beginning of Shoplogix in 2002. I have had a background in software development, have held many hats here at Shoplogix. Very passionate about data for manufacturing and helping our customers to harness the data for continuous improvement and data visualization, and looking forward to taking you through our new capabilities.
Right, welcome everyone. I'm Tarannum, VP of Operations here at Shoplogix. I've been at Shoplogix now for 3 years, and prior to that, my background and experience is really in manufacturing, and more specifically food and beverage. I spent over a decade in food and beverage before joining Shoplogix, and in a variety of roles, spent quite a few of my earlier career on the manufacturing shop floor. Have also been on the customer side of Shoplogix, so I've been a past customer of Shoplogix, and I've used it and kind of deployed it as well. So very excited for today's session and kind of take you guys through what we've been building here at Shoplogix around the Analytics Suite.
Okay, so just a quick overview of the agenda today. So we'll do a quick introduction of what is Analytics Suite and the offering. Then we'll go into the two main offerings of Analytics Suite: Advanced Analytics, which is the ability to use a lot of advanced data visualization and data mining tools on top of your analytics portal. And then we'll take you into Manufacturing Intelligence, which is the ability to ingest other sources of data into Shoplogix core data set. And then we'll wrap up with a summary and any Q&A.
Okay, great. So let's get right into it. So we're here really today to talk about the Analytics Suite. To start off, there's two key product offerings that we're talking about today. Within our Analytics Suite of offering, there's Advanced Analytics and there is Manufacturing Intelligence. Advanced Analytics, which will be the focus of the first half of this webinar, is really about unlocking data insights and doing that in an automated way by drilling into your relevant data and large data sets. So eliminating the need for lots of manual data mining and looking for insights. Through our advanced analytics offering, we're able to cut down that time spent in data mining and really automate some of those key insights. Manufacturing intelligence, on the other hand, is really eliminating the data silos that exist in manufacturing. So over the years, many manufacturing facilities have invested in either on-prem systems, homegrown, or just simply using Excel sheets to capture data and really capture key manufacturing data and KPIs to make business decisions. And what that does is creates those functional and data silos and really hard to get at the information and look at the holistic view of manufacturing. So manufacturing intelligence will provide kind of curated data to really support those business decisions all in one place and one platform. Some of the highlights of the Analytics Suite. So if we're talking the Advanced Analytics, again, it's about those automated data insights. It's about identifying key drivers by drilling into the data that you would see in a BI type report, in a dashboard. It's really getting to that next level of the dashboard to understand the key drivers. This is also where we start to shift away from descriptive analytics, which is really just data absorption and looking at what has already happened to more diagnostic and predictive analytics. And you'll see that in the demo as well, and we'll give more examples of how we do that. And understanding data relationships. So what are the behind the scenes data relationships that exist in your data with the depth of data that you may have versus what you see on the dashboard? And then all of this is really powered by advanced AI capabilities. And you'll see that as we get into the demo. And that's really what we're excited about. Manny, did you want to talk about the manufacturing intelligence side?
Sure. Manufacturing intelligence is, as mentioned, the ability to ingest other sources of data into the Shoplogix data set. Shoplogix has spent 20 years really focusing on data for manufacturing and trying to deliver effective and valuable insights into the challenges of manufacturing and production manufacturing. And with the ability to ingest other sources of data, we are bringing the ability to find correlations with Shoplogix and your other systems that are possibly on-prem or only accessible to certain departments within your organization. The idea here is really to eliminate those data silos, bring all the people and their data into one platform, ensuring that the platform is designed very effectively so that the insights can be found easily, and allowing all your smartest people to be able to spend more time solving problems and less time collecting the data and trying to find the insights themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Manny. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the curated data is really the key here, which is, really we're going through the data and identifying and cleansing and only bringing in by transforming the data, the stuff that matters, right? So once it's in there, it's meaningful and it's mapped and it's linked to your already existing Shoplogix data in the analytics portal. Okay, so exactly what is advanced analytics and what type of things are we talking about here? As discussed, this is really harnessing the diagnostics. So it's really the why. We're getting to the why behind the data. It's not just simply looking at the data and visualizing it, but starting to understand the patterns and the relationships and starting to uncover that and the behind the scenes of the why. And that's where we start to get into better data mining and drill down. So the resources on the shop floor are really focused there on the shop floor and taking action versus in an office and just spending a ton of time behind the screens going through data. Some of the key features of advanced analytics can identify complex patterns to provide better insights. So things that could be missed by a person or a human, it's really going to the depth of your data, looking at behind those charts and graphs and tables and starting to identify patterns that exist in the data. It also drills into manufacturing data for granular explanations. So there's a feature, as you'll see in our demo slide, that starts to explain the relationship when there is a change in your data. So what is the reason? What are the explanations that can be found behind the reasons for the change in your data over time? Forecast, another great capability of advanced analytics that can start to look at your future KPI trends, again, based on the depth of data that it accumulates. So over time, with the historical data that we have in place, we can start to predict through the different models that are available in our forecasting feature on how the future trend will look like. It also leverages machine classification for operational benchmarking. So machine classifications is really the ability to start to look at how does your organization classify your machines. So if there's a job and that runs on a certain machine or a certain line, and you have multiple plants across your network, how are each one of them behaving, and how do you classify those machines in terms of criticality, whether it's for PM and maintenance or whether it's for production and making sure they're available to run the volume needed. So really good for operational benchmarking across the network. So we do want to talk about the value because the features are great, but really what's the value that we're trying to drive here with advanced analytics, and what can our customers and the audience expect? So, it's with advanced analytics, we really start to get into the hidden data relationships, and this is where it gets really exciting, because this is where we could start to help to optimize the business processes, but also resources and decision making. Lots of time, the data may not be available until maybe month end or period end. And with this, and with kind of, with the ability to create your own dashboards and drive insights, this can now be done more closer to, in time versus later on when you start to look at historical trends. And it's also, goes beyond that simple data visualization, and again, gets to the why, because I think that's really what we're after. To drive value, it's how can we get from data to action as soon as possible? And with this insight, that's exactly what advanced analytics tries to deliver here. Some challenges and solutions. We often hear from our customers that have deployed a system or have tried to deploy a system in the past, or has even had a kind of a performance system for some years. Some challenges that are often maybe overlooked or not quite addressed are a lack of diagnostic analysis. So, there's no historical information available. There's trends, but they're only available for a certain time slot or a snapshot. Cannot identify potential data relationships. So it's really just, here's the data, but then someone needs to actually spend the time to go on the shop floor, to look at the finances, to look at the process side of things and try to make those correlations and make those bridges happen. So lots of time spent, that's not value added time on activities that could be automated. Lack of confidence and data-driven decisions. So this leads to really, the lack of confidence, because we're not really sure, because there's so many moving pieces and someone has to put it all together and then try to make a decision. So, the solution here is really the drill in. So now we're able to drill into the data for diagnostic analysis. We're able to automate a lot of the insights, so we get faster from data to action. We're able to identify the reasons behind the behavior in the data, and also what are the most probable key drivers, so that the right people can go after it. Lack of data insights. So, cannot leverage machine learning and statistical algorithms. This is often a challenge today. Inability to identify outcomes. So we know how we operate today, but hard to predict what will happen tomorrow. Too much data at hand to diagnose meaningful trends. This is often the case today, because I think more and more manufacturers are getting automated and do have the data available, but it hasn't been necessarily, it doesn't provide the context that's needed to really make those meaningful decisions. And sometimes it's because they're just sitting on too much data and don't know where to look and where to find insights. So, you do need that mix of subject matter expertise and maybe a BI analyst type role to make this happen. So the solution here is, some of the prescriptive modeling capabilities that advanced analytics offers. So you don't need to be a data scientist or a business analyst or really be a subject matter expert to use these tools. And anyone is able to unlock the insights by letting advanced analytics do the work and analyzing your large data sets and spitting out those the meaningful insights. Predict data behavior via the forecasting analysis, and also find explanations for the change in the data. Lack of visual data overviews is another challenge. So it's often hard to clearly visualize how much data is available and what's really happening. There are miscalculations and data biases that can exist. A mix of no digitized and non-digitized reports. And, you really can't get a consolidated view until the end of the month, and cannot effectively oversee production and operations as a result. It's really bits and pieces versus a picture of what's happening in real time and just in time. So the root cause really here, or the solution that's provided through advanced analytics to mitigate some of these challenges is, we can manage the relevant KPIs and reports, and it can be done by anyone with lots of visibility and transparency, and at any time. It can also be done in real time if needed. So at the end of a shift, you're able to kind of pull out what transpired and use classifications for different machine types. So really have an understanding across your network on how the machines are performing, and start to do some benchmarking that isn't 1 year later. Okay, so with that, we'll get into the live demo now. Hand it off to Manny.
Okay, thanks. I'll now share my screen. Okay, and so what I've got here is a demo dashboard from our advanced analytics capabilities. I'll take you through some of the more exciting and really interesting capabilities that we have to offer, and then we can also get to understanding just how interesting some of the algorithms that we have available here can help our end users. So the first capability I'll take you through is called Insight Miner. And so if we take a look at this this widget here, it's basically giving us line OEE over a multi-month period. You know, there's data there. It's you know, hard to see if it's improving or not improving and any reasons why. So if I go in and I actually ask for some insights on the average OEE over that multi-month period, our Insight Miner pops up. It starts to do some of its data processing, and eventually we'll come up with some interesting insights that you know, as Tarannum touched on, a very smart person within an organization, whether it's an engineer or a data scientist or even just you know, your line manager, will take some time to find any insights that really actually help to explain what's going on. So the Insight Miner found 10 insights, and let's start to look through them. The first interesting fact, it just kind of goes and grabs your minimums, your maximums, your averages, your median, and your standard deviation. So again, you know, data that is not always easily accessible, or you would need to have multiple widgets on the design of the dashboard to be able to give you this information, as well as just having the ability to have a simple dashboard. The next widget will take through and give you a feel of the data based on a historian type view. So, you know, how often are we falling into different percentages of OEE? And I'll ask for another insight. And this is one of my favorite insights that it does come up with. It automatically says, okay, you're looking at your data by day. What if we switch to weekly view? If we switch to a weekly view, then you actually can see some very significant highs and lows by a weekly basis that was definitely not obvious by a day-to-day 3-month period. And it even calls out what the largest increase in OEE happened, and that it was between week 8 and 9. Would be very valuable to someone who's trying to understand the data better, and this could be the clue that they're looking for, and they can then potentially take this and try to really deep dive into what happened between week 8 and week 9. The other feature I'd like to kind of call out within a lot of these data insight algorithms is the ability to like things. So that's where we're using the machine learning feedback mechanisms that exist in a lot of systems. Just like when you like a post, it knows on your favorite social media platform, it knows that you are maybe interested in more information like this. So if I say I liked this, then it will learn from that and try to deliver similar insights into the future. And if I ask for the next insight, this one's also very interesting. So if we look at the day of the week across the entire time period, it appears that Tuesday is one of the worst days of the week. And so that also could be a very interesting insight. Maybe or maybe not surprising. You know, Mondays, people usually come in, a lot of energy. You know, there's a lot of focus. maybe Tuesday is when things start to fade off, and people get distracted with trying to deliver on things that maybe the supervisors are not as focused on a Tuesday, and the operators kind of start to slack off. So things that could be insightful within these types of feedback. Just try maybe one more. Interesting fact: strongest relationship is between date and OEE. Not really interesting to me, actually. Sounds like probably exactly what we would expect based on the data set we showed. So, obviously these algorithms are trying to find as much insight as possible. So maybe I would say that's not very interesting. And okay, let's go for one more. This one again, kind of maybe potentially because of the feedback from earlier. Looking at weekly again, it's looking for the biggest weekly decrease in the OEE and calling that out as an insight. So as you can see, with a well-designed data model, which, as I mentioned earlier, Shoplogix is really focused on making sure that our data model is excellent for finding insights. The same data that any expert user of analytics that understands that they can, with an OEE report, that they can then drill into whether it's shift-based, whether it's day of week-based, whether it's machine-based, where our insights are going to try to find those insights for you, and avoid some of the work that is spent just data mining. So I'll go to the next example of how our advanced analytics can help with our customers, and this one's called explanations. So if you're looking at a timeline like this, and this is total scrap across an entire plant, the first thing that I'm drawn to is this spike in scrap in the middle of February. So if I was to go on to here and say, can you explain what's going on in this bar chart? The explanations algorithm will take a look and comes up with 100% likelihood of what the explanation is. So obviously, higher the score, the more likely that it's related to one of the correlated data sets than another one. So it's looking at job name versus machine versus maybe job instance and job name. So there's a whole bunch of different types of correlations it tries to find, and then tries to find the most likely. And so what it's saying is that a 6% increase in scrap was explained by a specific job that was running on the line. I can also say that, because the spike kind of came from a couple days before as well, maybe I want to also compare back to the 13th. And why is there a 174% increase in total scrap between the two dates? And again, it does come back to job name, and you can actually see in specific that 2 days before, this job hadn't been run. And this is definitely the culprit for the large spike in scrap in this scenario. So again, insights like this can obviously be found by running more and more reports, slicing and dicing their data, running different filters, maybe taking a look at other widgets that can cut your data by machine or by shift or by job. But with this, I was able to get the answer really quickly, and ideally that answer is going to be the root cause that will help to drive your next decisions on what to do. The next advanced analytics feature I will demonstrate is drill in. So again, similar to explanations, maybe you actually have a feeling that or even perhaps you've been told it's job related or whatever. There's ways that to kind of run your own drill in functionality as well. So from this example, I want to understand the root cause of this spike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill in, and made a mistake on my clicking. Second. right click, drill in, and I'm going to ask to drill in by line first. So in my data example, all my data is very line based. So there's usually your good production can be explained by line. So I can see I have a big spike in production on line 10. And then I could also say, okay, well then what's going on in this production based on line 10. And I will right click there and ask to drill in again. And this time I want to drill in by shift name. And there we go. So we can see that it was definitely shift 2 drove a very large amount of the production. Shift front 1 much lower. So these types of insights also, again, really fast, really interactive, allowing you to take a look at a single dashboard, single widget in a dashboard, and go to your root cause analysis fast without having to, go and compare to another dashboard or another set of widgets or another set of data sets, and to find the root cause from interesting information that you're seeing inside your data. So the final example I will take us to next is what we call interactive pivot. So this is an advanced pivot table where after a designer has created the pivot table and deployed it to their staff, the ability to have a more interactive pivot is available. So if I'm looking at this pivot and I want to, let's say, remove weeks and just focus on my line production and differentials. So you can quickly see that you can focus in on all the lines and see the production based on your date filters. I can then put that back, and maybe I want to switch instead to look at everything by week instead. And so here's your weekly production. So just, again, really easy ways for end users to be able to drill into the data quickly and easily without having to have advanced experience in designing or data models, anything like that. The ability to really quickly understand your data. I will show one more feature. This is Pulse. So this is the ability to monitor certain KPIs and set alerts to yourself when the KPIs fall above or below a target. So I will go into my scrap target, my scrap units, and you can choose some characteristics around your scrap numbers that will trigger a alert when you are greater than a certain percentage or things like that. These alerts are designed to be triggered off of dashboards with larger data. Okay, that was the end of my my demo of advanced analytics. So I'll continue to share the presentation, and I'll switch over to introducing manufacturing intelligence. So we've already touched on a little bit, but what is manufacturing intelligence? It's basically the idea of having a really well curated data set that you can use for reporting and data insights across your entire manufacturing process, uncovering and correlating that data to understand some of the root cause from performance. Also to be able to connect the different departments across your organization into one platform using a stable and reliable data source that that all departments can collaborate with. So some of the key features. Number one, obviously improved data accessibility. As I mentioned, silos are the biggest challenge in manufacturing. People have to export things to Excel all the time to merge or correlate or create dashboards that have data from multiple sources. And we're here to really allow all that data to be brought into one platform, easy to correlate, easy to design dashboards, and easy to get into the data insights, even easy to provide as monthly KPI reporting across your organization. Definitely able to drive faster business decisions, just like how you're able to find easy insights in the Shoplogix core data set that I was demonstrating earlier. Those insights come just as easily when you're trying to look across two different data sets, whether it's quality system, an on-prem quality system, and a Shoplogix data set. Those insights can be found faster, and the decision can be made faster. So getting into some of the value, the ability to correlate different data sources, and I'll get onto a slide where I kind of give you guys some examples of data sources that we've been talking to our customers or have already been implementing with some of our customers since we've launched the product. Having that platform, having it all easily correlatable is where the value really sits. The efficiencies and the speed to getting to data insights and driving opportunity identification is where the value really hits home for Shoplogix with manufacturing intelligence. And again, starting to harness some of those insights on top of that, you'll be able to use your machine learning algorithms to cover those insights for you as well. So challenges and solutions. We know lots of our customers we've talked to about this. The lack of data correlations can take a lot of time for very smart people. Usually some of the best and most effective or smartest people in the organization are the ones who are tasked with finding the data insights, finding the opportunities for improvement, and then delivering on those opportunities. Those people spend hours and hours, maybe even days, collecting the data, putting it into Excel, for example, or into any other data center, building reports, finding the correlations, spending the time finding and building those correlations, and then finally they get to an answer that they can go act on. We are here to help drive that data faster, easier, and let those really high value employees focus on driving the improvements instead of finding the data. Business-wide transparency is also a big challenge for organizations. The ability to install a system like Shoplogix and our manufacturing intelligence allows you to work on standardization across your organization with data across your entire operation. You then can start to look at having your monthly KPI reports, your monthly plant reporting systems, all working within one platform, getting into the correlations across other sources of data as well, and also being able to benchmark like machines across your organization as well to understand, hey, this type of process is being done in other plants. Where is it going really well, and where can we get maybe some advice from the other organization? I'll go to the next slide. Challenge being lack of deep analytics. Again, this concept of not having access to all your data in one place, and also even when the data does get brought into a BI platform, for example, the challenge still becomes correlation of that data across all the data sets. It's a very complicated process. It needs to be well maintained and really relies on someone who knows manufacturing to make sure that the databases are designed properly so that the correlations can happen quickly and easily and don't require report design requests and change requests to the data to make sure that it's accurate. That's where Shoplogix really can come in with our expertise. Bring you your data, bring you your data insights, bring you your properly designed database, and get into deep analytics on all the data and the correlations across your entire platform of manufacturing. And yes, of course, this does mean your end users are much more empowered. You know, we've seen that you know, a well-designed dashboard with a short training session can really help any user to get to the data they're looking for and quickly find the insights in the data and turn insights into action. Okay, this is an architecture overview slide, just to kind of give you a feeling for how manufacturing intelligence works. You know, on the left-hand side there, you have all of your data. You have your plant floor equipment. You have your on-prem applications. You've got databases and warehouses, data warehouses, historians that are collecting data from different sources that are not are maybe for a specific team, whether it's maybe your maintenance team or your quality team. You tend to still have to use Excel for certain things if you don't have an application that tracks certain types of processes or situations that happen in the plant. Then you turn to Excel for an Excel tracking sheet. And then, of course, a lot of companies are now also moving to having their cloud software solutions as well. So now it's a mix of cloud and on-prem and other files as well. So just in the next column there's just ideas of all the different types of data you're collecting, and where is all that data going? How is it going to be correlated, and how can you find insights into that data? It could be additional machine data that's being put into a historian. It could be data from a manufacturing execution software package. You have your energy consumption. You have your maintenance team may have a maintenance work order product. Quality waste is also difficult. That sometimes it sits in the ERP or in other sources of data. You may have other data in your ERP that you would love to correlate with the real-time production of Shoplogix. Then you even get into things around inventory, freight costs, labor and labor costs, HR and safety. So Shoplogix, how do we do this? Well, first we have an on-prem to cloud option. So we have for our core, we collect all the data through a collector PC and collector software. We've enhanced that significantly to allow us to be able to pull from any source of data from the plant that is not is perhaps behind a firewall or not allowed to go into the internet. So we will talk to those site sources and collect the data and send it to the cloud through our own software package. That could be a connection to an ODBC database. It could be a Windows file share. It could be flat files. We also support middleware packages that already exist. So that could be from an on-prem to cloud middleware software package that already exists, and we will just take the data from that source and do our conversion into our data set. And then we can also do things like cloud to cloud. So it could be FTP, it could be a SharePoint source for your Excel files, or many of the modern cloud SaaS software packages now do API cloud to cloud. In the end, that all goes into our AWS cloud platform. We already have our core database and core configuration and real-time whiteboard server in this platform, and now we've introduced our manufacturing database with the data source. So as we collect the data, we store it to help ensure quality and technical support. And with that data, we then have what we call ETL scripts. They transform all the data into our manufacturing intelligence database so that it can be properly correlated to our core data. The transform means things like, making sure the dates can be matched, the jobs can be matched, the shift can be matched, the machines can be matched, and delivered out to your analytics portal and the whiteboard. So that's it for me. I'll hand it back over to Tarannum to do a little demo.
Thanks, Manny. Okay. So let's take a look at what manufacturing intelligence actually looks like and how it can work for you. So here's, you've seen our dashboards, but this one, I'm really going to focus in on what does manufacturing intelligence bring in. And just like its name indicate, the idea is we can bring all of your different data sources that you may have under one roof of your production floor onto the dashboard. So you're not having to log into different systems to get the data insights and get data correlationships. So we've really been working at Shoplogix, like as I said, over the past couple of years, and when we launched this last year, around how can we get the curated data to our customers. I think there's lots of BI options out there today, really, what is manufacturing intelligence and how is it different from all the other BI stuff that exists, right? And for us to really give our customers value, and from what we were hearing from them was, some of the systems are on-prem, some are Excel-based. And so it's really hard to get that overall one platform experience on what's happening. But for deep operator root cause analysis, you may still need those on-prem, on the shop floor solutions and the system that you've invested in over the years. So how do you keep your investment, to get the value out of that, but at the supervisor management executive levels, still have the oversight into your operations? And that's really where manufacturing intelligence comes in. And it's really the ability to bring in those key data that helps you make the business decision into the analytics suite platform at Shoplogix. So what I'm showing you here is, until now you saw kind of you saw all the different features that are available to really get, to get any end user to be able to do deep analysis and insights where you don't need a data scientist for or business analyst for. Really, this is meant for anyone to be able to come in and run those insights. And now we're looking at what else can we run insights on, and more specifically, correlationship between your data. So you have your production data, but you also have cost data. And there's also, as Manny said, HR, there's labor data, there's safety data. And how do you bring all that in and really start to get a curated data experience? What I'm showing you here is packages destroyed due to quality issues. So this is when we start to bring in, over the course of time, how much of the production was destroyed because it didn't meet the quality standards for the organization. So you can see here over the course of the month, April looks like it was the kind of the worst. And this is where, when you combine manufacturing intelligence with the advanced analytics features, it really gives you some pretty powerful capabilities at your fingertips to really start to diagnose into your data. As I scroll down, you can start to dissect this even further and really start to look at it by line, look at it by whole categories. And then, I think where the transformation really comes in is starting to look at converting the waste that you're producing on the line into cost. So today with our Shoplogix core, you have data around how much waste you're producing, but what does that actually mean when you translate it into dollars? And you may have some targets as an organization of what you want to stay within, or your BOMs, your bill of materials, may also dictate how much could be scrapped or waste. And then at what point are you going to run into shortages of raw material if you start to produce too much waste? So here's a nice graph kind of looking at the cost of waste per shift. And you can see the days and the shifts where it spiked quite a bit versus the target, and where it was low. And you can also see the days where there was no production and hence no waste. Here's another example of bringing other sources of data into Shoplogix Analytics Suite to start to get those correlationships and understand what's happening on the shop floor. So here's the temperature reading. So it's looking at over the course of time. The purple line is your upper temperature limit. The blue is your actuals, and then the green is a lower temperature limit. This could have been set by R&D, could have been set by the quality team. depending on how your organization operates, but we have the ability to bring in the targets that matter to you to make sure your product is always staying within spec. In this case, you can see there's quite a bit of spike on this one here. This may be a useful graph when you're running trials for a new product introduction, for example. So you can see everything's kind of hovering where it should, but then there's this trial period where things are kind of out of whack here, and you can see that. And this is where you would work with the new product introduction team and the R&D team to understand, okay, is this where the pH should be because this product is so different than all of the other SKUs that run, or is this something that we need to bring back into balance? This also helps to predict what the upper and lower threshold should be for a new product going forward. Here's another example of pH. The colors that you see on this trend graph are indicative of the product that's running. So if I hover on the legend here, this is kind of product 111. So you can see when it ran and what the pH trend was. And then when product 110 runs, you can see not a lot of volume on this product, but when it runs, that's kind of the pH trend. And then, kind of 79 and 99 seem to be the production, the majority of the volume of the production. And these do tend to run pretty much, with not a lot of variation, which is what you want to see. Here's another example of a good graph to use. This would be, it has many use cases, but one of the most common ones for a box and a whisker plot is looking at your data, especially quality data, to do some deep statistical analysis and start to understand your kind of bell curve and the area underneath the curve and what's actually happening there. So as you can see here, you've got the range of the whiskers that shows your entire range of data sets. If you had any outliers in your data, they would show up on this graph with a dot. So you'll see some dots kind of on the outskirts. In this data set, there aren't any outliers, so you're not seeing that, but you can still see the range. You can look at this by job, which is what I'm kind of showing here. This can also be viewed over time if you tend to run the same job, but want to see the behavior of that one job over time. Or in a production area or a line where you run multiple jobs and you want to see the behavior of the pH level based on the SKU that you're running. If I hover over here, it gives you all the statistical analysis that you would want to make quick decisions on, especially quality decision. So there's no need to do any analysis here. It tells you exactly what you would expect out of a box and whisker plot. So it's telling you the min and the max of your whiskers, but also of your box. And of course, the middle line that divides the box is your median. Sometimes it could also be your mean. So this is a very interesting way of looking at data. Maintenance. So this is another source of data that's often very important to our production teams. And how does maintenance interact with quality and with the production and with the challenges and issues that are in place? In this case, we pulled in by quarter the parts that were deemed as critical to replacing. So we know maintenance can't always get production time to go in and do really preventative maintenance. So often the work will get prioritized and usually priority is based on, the biggest bang for your buck. If you're only going to get a certain amount of time to get in there to shut down the production line to do maintenance. So in this case, it showcases a couple of parts that were deemed as critical to replace and in getting ready for the heavy season. The Q2 is the high volume season, and in ensuring that we're not running to failure in Q2 and making sure we can hit our production output, the decision was made to change the two parts. So here's kind of the cost of the two parts, what it costs to replace the two parts in the critical machine. And then the output is how many additional or incremental parts they were able to produce because of the change in parts. So this is kind of the investment going in for the two parts. And here is the additional incremental volume that was produced that wouldn't have been possible if the parts weren't replaced. So this could be related to quite a few things. One could be the speed of the machine, that it was by replacing the parts, it allowed the machine to go faster and hence the incremental parts that were produced. And then you can see how that machine kind of performed over the next quarter, which it did very well. The additional things you can bring into manufacturing intelligence is, again, your cost data. So you may want to start to understand what is my cost per pound or what is the cost per package. And then in Analytics Suite, you can take your cost and you can run all types of math and you can multiply that with waste. You can multiply that by your production. You can multiply that by the hours that were missed opportunity where you had downtime. So lots of use cases for that. I'll show you some examples down here. I'll go through this a little bit quicker, just looking at the time. Want to make sure we leave some room for a Q&A as well. But here, this is the graph that Manny showed earlier as well. It's the line OE. But on the right-hand side here, this is where it starts to look at forecasting. So it actually starts to look at, by utilizing the forecasting tool, how does your OE behavior and trend look like in the longer term? I'll show you a few more examples of forecasting as we go down. But here's another one of, now that you have different sources of data in Analytics Suite, you can start to do comparisons. You can do comparisons within the same widget, or you can also do comparisons side by side, depending on the data that you're looking at. So here's a weekly total machine stops. You can start to see there was a spike over here. There were quite a bit of machine stop. You can use kind of the feature here to really hone in on the area of interest. And then in that exact same or similar time period, you can start to look at, well, what was the MTBF duration? So if I had these stops, what was the impact of those stops on the machines, and what was my mean time between failure? So you can see here for this machine, one of the highest points is about 17.46 minutes. So that's how long this machine can operate without stopping. And this is involuntarily stops, right? So this isn't an operator hitting the e-stop and stopping the machine. This is the machine stopping involuntarily. So it should be running, everything is set up for it to run, but it stops because of XYZ reasons. And so you can start to see how capable this machine is, and really talking about asset reliability here. And then you can also see in the dips where we had a lot of stops in those in that similar time period. I think the lowest it hit was about 0.46 minutes before it stopped. So lots of micro stoppages here. As we go down here, this is an interesting one. This is the output by day. So it's looking at your production output, and it's showing you trend in your outputs and which days you tend to do really well and which days things are not looking so great. As you start to look at this trend and look at it over time, you can start to see, I think anyone without much analytics capabilities can see that there's definitely dips, and you can do the quick math, and it looks like about every 7th day there is a dip. So there could be a changeover happening where maybe the SKUs are running or the jobs are running on a 6-day period. So there are those dips and spikes. But the forecasting is really where things start to get interesting. So over here, I've enabled forecasting. And just to show you a peek of how that works very quickly, we have the capability to, if you go into total output here, and if I click on that scholar and click on forecast, you can see how I was able to set up this forecast. So currently it's forecasting the next 10 days. And I'm asking it to use all past data. There's other options too. You can also just use recent data. You can also exclude some data if there's some outliers in your data. And by going into the advanced option, this is where I think some people would be interested in kind of the data model that it's using. So at the moment, I've enabled Ensemble, but there's other options here. There's 4 different data models that could be picked depending on the data set that you're analyzing. And then there's also boundaries limitations. So here you can start to set some limitations around the things that you want to ignore or the things that are outside of the boundaries. So I'll hit cancel there. Just wanted to make sure we took a quick peek at that. One more thing before we get to Q&A, some interesting data here, the example of having 2 different types of data in the same widget. So I kind of showed the side by side. This is an example of production count versus employees absent. So what does the absenteeism rate look like in correlation to your production? So where you have, in winter season, sometimes in some of our customers, you get a lot of call-ins, sick call-ins when there's a snowstorm or other things like that, where employees are not able to get to work on time or at all. Or there is during the pandemic, we saw lots of sick calls for that reason. And so there's lots of reasons for employee absenteeism, but it's often hard to look at the behaviors of it and how that's actually impacting your production. So here you can start to take a look at the production count, which is the green line, versus the blue, which is your absenteeism rate. So you can see on the days when we have absenteeism, there is a dip in the production that was able to run. I don't have time to show you more, but there's additional stuff you can do with this. You can also start to look at, you can also add in another layer, so a 3rd line to this, and actually start to look at production areas or production lines that were significantly impacted by absenteeism versus just overall production. In here, you can see scrap versus cost, so side by side. And very quickly, you can drill into this because that's the highest point. And I want to understand what happened that month. And you can start to see exactly that month, a daily trend of where this graph was. And you can start to see it was right here around kind of 412 to 416. And then the last one here is looking at your breakdown versus your cost. So green is your maintenance hours that were spent every time you had a breakdown on that machine. So here's your breakdown hours and then the correlation of how much maintenance time was spent on it and what the cost was to the organization. And then this is just your operational KPI across the board of getting all of your different data in a KPI spreadsheet. Okay, I will pause there looking at the time. Manny, I think you've been looking and monitoring the questions, I hope. Are there questions that we want to?
Well, we actually have no open questions from what I can see.
Okay.
Unless, so I wasn't gonna butt in or rush you because unless someone does still want to ask a question, please feel free to.
Yep, you can put it in the chat. You can also email us if there aren't any immediate questions because we did cover a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we will.
We do have one. So the question is, we have the basic version of analytics. What are the challenges for this new version? I'm not sure if it's the question means challenges or the changes, but I will try to answer what I think the question was, Domingos. Really, what the way we've designed advanced analytics and manufacturing intelligence is that it just enhances the existing platform that you're already using. You would be trained on it's basically through a license model. You get trained on how to use the advanced analytics capabilities. We do some exercises on designing new dashboards, harnessing those types of features, and then kind of take you through some hypercare afterwards to make sure that you're able to you and your plants are able to adopt the capabilities. With the manufacturing intelligence, that becomes a project through our professional services team to identify the most important sources of data that will help drive value, and then we work on a ETL project where we determine the best way to get the data and bring it over into the Shoplogix system and normalize it to our designs. And then Stan had asked for slide 3.
Yeah, so there was a question that could we bring up slide 3 back on, and when I did, it was another. So it's either the agenda or the introduction. It asked for the introduction, so I'm guessing it's this one. Thank you. Okay, good. So we answered that question by bringing up the slide here again. Okay, while I've got this here, we'll just run through and do our summary here. So I think in summary, thank you for attending the webinar. I hope you found it insightful and valuable. But Analytics Suite is all about empowering our users with dashboards that really analyze and provide actionable insights, right? So it's to minimize your time mining through the data and really getting you to a place where you can find those data behaviors and forecast predictions and take those insights to the shop floor faster and really act on them, because where the value comes in is once those insights are being actioned. And this is for anyone and everyone. You don't need to be a data scientist or a BI, business analyst. It's really for any end users. We're making it automated and very easy for everyone to kind of understand and really take advantage of it and feel confident around the data-led decisions that you can make across your organizations.